welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another AFL round review. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 4 rounds left in the AFL season. Where does the season go? But when you're having fun and with an incredibly crazy season to go through, it has been fantastic. This week, to help me join the reviews, I've got a couple of fantastic guests from the A3 podcast. Reason it's A is because all of my co-hosts have the same first name of Alex. So I will introduce both of them. You've seen him before. Alex Doherty, great to have you back on the podcast, sir. Always fantastic to talk footy with you.
Yes, thank you for having me back once again, Donny. Hello, everybody. Keen to break through what's been a good round of footy.
And one of his co-hosts from the A3 podcast. Somebody, this is my first time having him on the podcast, Mr. Alex Catalano. Alex, great to see you, sir.
Great to be here, Donny. I know it's good to put a face to the name finally. I think I've seen you around on Twitter and obviously the podcast space for ages. So very, very good to be here and good to hear a different voice with us for a change talking footy.
Well, I appreciate it. And the third member of the podcast, Alex Miller, unfortunately could not make it today. So if when he does listen to this, Alex, our thoughts are with you. Hopefully everything is okay. We miss you, but we will do as best we can without you, sir. Fantastic what you guys do on the A3 podcast. It is one of my weekly listens. I absolutely love it. So just thought I'd get that out there before we get started, but we'll jump right into it. Round 20 has come. It has gone. Again, the insanity ensues. Alex, Kat, we'll start with you. Your thoughts, round 20 as a whole.
I know, insanity ensues. You could say that about every single round this year. And it was another good watch. I mean, Friday night sort of kicked it off, Port, which I tipped, mind you. I'm gonna put that out there off the bat. I
Oh,
did tip
yeah.
that. The Suns losing their first game at home for the year. My poor Bombers getting absolutely dominated. Way too close at the G for the Giants, and of course the big doggies upset too. So. I mean, yeah, it's delivering. Every single round of this year is delivering. I don't think we've had much of a bad one yet, but some really, really good games, I think, to look at this week.
Definitely for sure. Doc, your thoughts on round 20?
Yeah, well, it feels like we're only a small step closer to figuring out who is actually going to be playing in the final eight this week. I mean, with some big movers, some big shakers. I mean, Hawthorn's really setting a big statement on the Sunday evening. I mean, the doggies were looking really good. Donny, commiserations to your Swannies. Um, Essendon and Melbourne getting their pants pulled down once again, and Collingwood just sort of keeping their head sort of on a swivel, and they've got a big week ahead of them this week as well against the old rival and Scott Pendlebury's 400th game as well. Fantastic stuff, but yeah, fantastic round all up, and it's gonna go down to the wire these last few spots. I mean, I can still see 5 to 8 really up for grabs at the moment. I think everyone that's in the top four. Carlton a little bit wobbly at the moment, but I still think they've got enough cattle to get it all done when it's by the time we get to September.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. The top four, are you going to see the fight for them to stay in the top four, or is somebody going to have that epic failure and absolutely fall apart in the final rounds? It'll be interesting. It's as soon as you think you got this thing figured out, somebody stumbles or somebody pulls something out of a body cavity. I'm not going to say on this podcast. It's just going to be very, very interesting to see how it goes. So let's jump into it. We'll jump to it. Friday night footy season upset, as Kat said, as Port Adelaide knock off Carlton 79-65, a 14-point win. And again, this is one of those I'm not sure where to put the plaudits on. Am I going to kick Carlton because, again, another chance to put 4 points on the board that should be a win and they don't get it done? Or do I give the plaudits to Port Adelaide because they finally found a way to maybe find that consistency that we've been hoping for, seeing guys like Butters, Rosie, and Jason Horn Francis have a dominant game in a midfield battle that that's Carlton's one wood. So Doc, we'll go to you. Your thoughts on this one because wow, an interesting result here.
Geez, if you ask Alex Miller, he certainly won't be putting any money on Port. He bloody doesn't like them, and he doesn't like Ken Hinkley either. No, look, very interesting game of football. I mean, 7-goal second term to Carlton opened things up, and we are all sort of wondering how much. And then it's sort of interesting, isn't it, Kat? Because we've sort of I've heard a lot during the week about Carlton's short break. That was only about 4.5 days. They played on the Sunday
Mm,
twilight prior to this, so they didn't have a long enough turnaround. But Port Adelaide sort of reigning supreme. They've got some absurd record now at Marvel Stadium. I think it's like 12 of their last 13 wins
Mm-hmm.
they've had underneath the roof. So whatever's working, whatever Ken's trying to pull over there, it's bloody working, and he just keeps finding ways to win with the side that has underperformed in recent memory, but they're a good home and away side, but they'll I just don't see them going anywhere far heading into September.
Mm-hmm.
It is a
Yeah.
weird one with how they play at Marvel. Like, I don't know what they like about it, but I think, yeah, Doc's sort of got a point with that, Donny. I think I'm willing to cut Carlton a little bit of slack this week. They were in the medical ward big time, injury wise, and that 5-day turnaround definitely didn't help them either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you guys on this one. My only thing though is that Carlton's done this a couple of times this year that they've raced out or gotten a big lead in the second half and faded in the first half and faded in the second. And not all of them were 5-day breaks. So I don't always like go into that because when you get a big lead like that, you'd think you'd be able to at least hold on to it. So maybe the short break, maybe they were a little bit fatigued come that fourth quarter, but it wasn't like they played a great second half. Like their second half, they were fumbly. Port Adelaide kind of got over on them, and so I don't know. This is as a Carlton team, I'm not sure. I'm still kind of in purgatory with them. I'm not sure if I really want to put them in flag contenderships because it still bothers me that once you get past their midfield, their defense is like Swiss cheese at times. There's holes there because so many of their defenders are offensive type of players. Adam Sod's a defensive is an offensive type of defender. Nick Newman's an offensive type of defender. Yes, you've got Wiedering back there. He's great, but he can't do it all himself. So I'd be fascinated to
Mm.
see how Vossi decides to handle this group after another disappointing loss. So we jump down to Bluntstone Arena in Hobart, where North were competitive for about 2.5 quarters. And then Geelong finally went hold my beer. Game over. 40-point win by the Cats, 106-66. Cat, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this? The Cats, another strong win. North, competitive, but again, the class of the Cats just too much.
Yeah, it's better than what we've seen from North, I think, at the start of this year. And I think a couple of weeks ago on the A3 pod, we rolled out some stats where they've really been significantly better in a lot of areas since I think about round 12 or so. They really haven't dropped below
Mhm.
those marks. Contested ball, obviously, it's been a really big strength of theirs. And once again, I mean, I thought that first half was obviously where it was. Harry Sheezel's a star. We all know that.
Mhm.
Tom Powell's doing great stuff. Tristan Cherry's honestly putting his hand up as possibly the second ruck in the AA group, maybe. But yeah, I mean, Geelong are just they're in great nick too at the moment. I don't think anyone should be sleeping on them. I know they're sitting in sixth, but they're one of those teams that I think no matter where they finish in the top eight, finals time is going to be very, very scary.
Mhm. Doc?
Mm. Yeah, Geelong very impressive in this one. Did what they needed to do after being embarrassed at home last week against my doggies. But you're onto something with Harry Sheezel. He's on track for second club best and fairest. And I know you were peddling Adam Treloar for AA last week, Cat, on the pod, but I'm peddling Harry Sheezel for AA this year. He's just a class above, and he's taken the midfield role to a duck to water. So you could honestly plop him on the bench as the third or fourth rotation. 36 touches, 9 clearances, and Tristan Cherry is most improved. I'm calling it right now. But the Cats did what they needed to do. Interesting to see Tom Stewart play in the midfield as well in recent weeks. He's certainly really adjusting to that really well, and he's playing like he's playing like Patrick Dangerfield from 5 years ago. He's just completely going nuts.
Mm-hmm. No, 100% with you on that one. And actually like both of your calls on that one. I like Trelaw. I think Trelaw's a dark horse, but again, that midfield AA is absolutely bonkers. But he's got a lot of arguments to be in that AA squad. It'll be fun to see how the selectors handle that, which they're not always on my good list because they like to tuck midfielders into the half forward line, which annoys the all heck out of me.
Oh,
But
don't get us started on that, Donny.
well, I specifically over the last couple of years, the reason that I started Team of the Week is so then I have the excuse to do my all Australian, and I do it. I've done it the last couple of years, and I specifically make sure that no midfielder that plays more than 50% midfield time is a half forward. And I know it always causes some fun sometimes on my social media when people respond to it. So I know exactly. I'm with you guys on that one for sure. So let's jump up to People's First Stadium, the stadium that keeps changing its name every year, as the Gold Coast Suns finally fall at home to their Queensland rivals in the Q Clash. 93-65 to the Brisbane Lions. Again, the Lions continuing to, pardon my pun here, roar on through the season, even with a makeshift backline that, if you look at it by on paper, Eric Hipwood. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Hipwood played as a defender in this game and actually didn't do too bad a job. But again, we got to look at Demo Hardwick and go, what again is going wrong? Because Gold Coast, this was your perfect opportunity. A very vulnerable Brisbane Lions team with a makeshift back line, and you stub your toe and fall on your and face plant again. Doc, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, we've seen Rory Lobb transition as a key defender and play well, and now
Mhm.
I can't believe Eric Hipwood's going to play key defense and excel in this role. This is just absolutely everything I don't want to see. But look, the Suns have been, depending on where you stand with the Suns, I feel like this is this was one where they had to sort of make a stand at home against Brisbane, and they didn't do it. They got belted in contested ball. They got belted in clearances. Brisbane had 60 inside 50 entries as well, so they had plenty of opportunities, and they just it sort of reminds me of the Q Clash earlier, where despite Brisbane had about 3 or 4 blokes injured, they still just bullied Suns around contest and stoppage, and you know I don't think a lot of people notice it, but I think the core group of this Suns team is still very young. So
Mhm.
I think you give this another year, and Cat knows I've said this time and time again. This has only been a year of finding out things for Dimmer Hardwick. Give him a little bit of time to figure out who plays where and what happens here, and then you go to work with that, find the pieces to complement that young core group, because we know it's a really good group that's coming through. Um, Give that another year or two, and we'll see this Suns team really hand it to Brisbane, I think.
Yeah, definitely for sure. Cat.
I mean, yeah, it's hard with the Suns. I want to cut them slack for this season, and I've probably been too generous to some teams this year, letting them get away with these bad performances. But it doesn't help. Ben King's had a serious case of the yips over the past couple of weeks as well, which certainly isn't helping them in front of goal. They're getting the opportunities at the moment, which I don't think is too bad. The same against the Giants last week. They had plenty of shots on goal, but they just simply could not convert. That's a pretty concerning area of mine for the Suns at the moment. But you say that the Lions are patchwork down back. I think they're making it work very, very well. It was young Shadow Brain last week in the dying moments, and the veterans this week. I mean, Dane Zorko has not been in better form than I think probably the last 2 months since Brisbane have been going on this winning streak. He's leading the troops down there extremely well. And it's letting guys like Darcy Wilmot play really, really good footy. Cam Rayner up front's in some of the best form he's been in his whole career as well. Probably similarly over the past month up forward. So there's a lot to like about Brisbane right now. And as much as the Suns were disappointing, I think they deserve their top four spot. And they're going to be, if they earn a home qualifying final, I could almost guarantee that they'd be winning a prelim at the Gabba.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when it comes to Brisbane Lions, but I want to go to the Suns really quickly, and I remember harping on this early in the season because I remember Dimma Hardwick's introduction thing, and he went 80% of my Premiership team is on this list, and I went, Dimma, dude, what drugs are you on? Please give me some. I'm so I he's a hell of a coach. Okay, I'll give him his plaudits on that. Your flowers you have earned. Okay, you have. But I don't know what drugs you're on, but this team is not even close to 80% set for a premiership. It's not. We've seen it. We've seen 5 or 6 coaches go through this club and cannot get it figured out. I said at the start of the year, and I know you guys are probably, I think you guys said the same thing. They're not going to make finals this year. This is going to be the teething process for a lot of
Yeah.
people. And I know some people, they started winning a few games at home, and people in Victoria started jumping up and down. They're going to make finals. They're going to make finals. And I went, they're gonna stuff it up. You know it, right? You know it.
Yeah.
And then everybody started talking about as soon as they left People's First Stadium, they would lose. They would lose a road game. They would lose another road game. And the fact that win at home, play really well, go on the road, look like absolute rubbish. So it was kind of one of those where it's like, I knew they weren't going to make it. And this was the perfect one here. This was the can we show we're good even at home? And as soon as I watched this game and I went, yeah, nope, nope. And when Brisbane won, I was like, yep, there's finals. Bye bye. It's done. You don't have a shot. If you're not going to win games on the road, there's no way you're going to make finals. And even if you do make finals, so say the crazy thing is they were to make finals, you're going to lose in the first round because you're going to have to go on the road to start the finals. So I, again, I want Denver to succeed. I want Gold Coast to succeed. But I think a lot of people jumped on this bandwagon bit too maturely. There were a few holes in the bottom of the boat, and when people have started to see the leaking water start to rise, people are starting to jump off like the rats on a ship. So it'll be interesting to see this one. Brisbane again. What Fagan and the Brisbane Lions have done this year is fantastic. They look absolutely tip-top shape. They look like the team that I remember at the start of the year. I believe I tipped to win the premiership because I thought if everything goes right, they've got everything that they need right there. So we'll have to see how this goes. And again, Dane Zorko, like I love your call on that, Cats. I think Zorko is actually playing Kitty Coleman's position better than
Yeah,
Kitty did
yeah.
last year. Like it's
Oh yeah.
crazy how much impact he's had on this season since he's went back to that half forward kind of half back forward, half pocket type of situation that he does rolling between the two. So it's insane. This Lions team, they're scary good, and if they get games at the Gabba where they don't have to leave Queensland, you can almost book their tickets to the grand final because they're going to be very difficult to beat up at the Gabba. So we jump to it, the one that I know Kat is probably not looking forward to us talking about, and that is at Marvel Stadium as the Saints find offense. OMG, the Saints find offense, and they defeat the Essendon Bombers 108-55. Cat, what happened?
Uh, if there's any game, if you gave me one game this year to just erase from the memory, get the old Men in Black memory wipe, just flash it in front of my eyes right now, it would be this one. And that's saying something because the last three losses have been equally as bad as this game. But geez, I mean, it would take us at this point of the season to make this St Kilda team look like an offensive juggernaut, and Cooper Sharman's going crazy. Caminiti's swinging from the back line into the forward line to kick a few goals, and the stats from that third quarter where we had literally zero hard ball gets, I think, really goes to show what went wrong in this game. The intent at the ball, the desire to win at the contest. I know it's something that gets rolled out a lot by commentators. They just didn't want it enough. But when you are going head to head against a team that's probably just playing for pride at this point, you've got to have at least that effort and intensity there. And we absolutely didn't. Not on any line of the ground. We've been exposed for it from back to front in the last 3 weeks, and this was the worst of the lot. I don't even know what to say about this team anymore other than I just expected at this point.
Doc, your thoughts?
uh well, we've made a big habit of labeling teams as frauds throughout the year at A3. We've called it Fraud Watch,
I've
and
heard, yeah.
unfor- and unfortunately, Kat, your team is now on the top of the list. I reckon there's about 10 or 12 teams that have gone through the Fraud Watch banner, including my own. So
Mhm.
there's no bias here on A3. Everyone gets treated fairly, but yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, it was a good opening half. Essendon showed a lot, a fight, a lot of want, and then that third term just completely went away. Went away from everything that the Bombers have worked on this year, and it's pretty much reaffirmed my fears over the last few weeks that this is Groundhog Day for Essendon, where they just don't turn up in the latter part of the season. And yeah, as you said, zero ground ball gets. I was listening to the radio at call of this game, and they brought that up, and it nearly fell off my chair when I heard that. Zero hard ball gets in a quarter of football is an indictment on an AFL team, and just sort of, gee, they're just terrible, Essendon. I don't even know how they're still in with a chance of playing finals. They're only half a game out, but they've lost 4 of their last 5 in all of which in pretty egregious circumstances.
It was a chance is very, very generous stock, considering we've got
Half a game out, Cat.
Rio, Sydney, and Brisbane, 3 of the last 4. Let's see you later, well and truly.
Well, okay, so we've had it, we've had our kick of Essendon while they're down. I got to give plaudits, but the thing that's going to annoy me, and maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but this makes me look at Ross Lyon and go, seriously, where has this been? Like, you knock off Sydney, you knock off Essendon over the last month. Where has this St. Kilda been? Why have we not seen this all season? This is a team that, if you look at it on paper, it's got some really good pieces. Is it perfect? No. Does it have a great midfield? Absolutely not. Nobody's going to say that. But oh my gosh, seriously. Like, why has the St. Kilda team not stepped up and played like this all season? Again, I don't know. I know it's a long season. I know everything is always fluctuating, injuries, movement, player form, all that. But this just annoys me when I see a team that's completely out of finals contention starts playing good football. It's like, once the pressure is off, okay, we're not going to make finals. Whew, okay, let's go play. Seriously? Like, that's the most frustrating thing in the world. Like, I'm okay with Essendon shitting with them shitting the bed because they started so well. They played really good football. Maybe they've just run out of steam. Maybe they've just teams have figured them out. It's a little bit like, I think it's a lot like Sydney. I think teams have figured them out. It's going to be, can the coaching staff revamp something enough to make them different as the season goes on? But this annoys me that this St. Kilda team is playing great football as soon as their season is done. That's frustrating because then that means, where
Yep.
was this heart? Where was this fight when you were still in it? That's the most frustrating part for me. Again, great win for St. Kilda. Again, impressive win. Whether or not I'm on fraud watch for Essendon, I'm still gonna hold my breath a little bit. But as Kat said, their run home is a murderer's row. If a couple of those teams are on form, then I completely agree with you. It could be a quite the ugly end to this Essendon season. And I know the video came out of the one Essendon supporter absolutely giving it to the players as they walk through the race, which
Don't know if
I'm
I don't know if you saw the video of the player throwing the scarf on the field. I actually thought that was Cat for a second there, and convinced my wife as well that it was Cat. And I was like, no, that's
Summarizing the feelings of the whole fan base at the moment.
I remember seeing that, and I was like, okay, it's getting bad. It's getting bad now when the scarf is hitting the field. So yeah, so we will step away from the pain that is that, and then go to one that it's more painful in a different reason, and I'll explain is that we'll go to the MCG, at least it was the MCG, but where the fans were, I'm still trying to figure out. I know that the members is on the camera side, but again, Melbourne fans, come on. Are you kidding me? Like, this happens all the time. Like, everybody's in the member section, so the rest of the MCG sits cavernously with nobody around except for the 15 GWS fans behind the one goal. So GWS get the win by 2 in a game that literally, this was interesting because GWS, it was neck and neck early. GWS roars out to big lead, and Melbourne does a Melbourne in the fourth quarter and roars back to get within 2 points and fall short.
yeah, I'm just gonna say I had a look at that members area, Donny. I reckon there was about 5 people in there. So
Jeez. Because
yeah, no,
that's what I keep hearing from Melbourne fans. I'm like, we're all in the member section. I'm like, well,
uh, don't believe that. I was at a Dogs Melbourne game a couple of years ago, and I swear to you, there were more Dogs fans there than Melbourne fans. Uh, but oh, look, it's this is a game. This is what I said to you last week, Kat. This was a game that Melbourne really had to win and really sort of put themselves back into the top eight contention. A home game against an interstate club, and you know they were fine for a lot of it. They really staved off a lot of GWS's advances. You know, very played a defensive mindset, and then sort of just let a couple of like 20 sloppy minutes of football get to them at the end of it, and that's probably makes me a little bit nervous this week as with the D's coming up against us. But I still think this Melbourne team is at a crossroads now where they've got the established players, they've got the kids that they're trying to bring through. I really like the look of that Moniz Wakefield as well. He looks
Mhm.
a lovely type off the half back line, but you know, start bringing in some of the other kids. I mean, give Conan Brown a bloody game. I feel watched enough of him at Casey to suggest that he's far far too good at VFL level. You know, this season's pretty much a write off. Start giving some of these younger fellas a good run through. You know, good to see Bailey Laurie get his hands on the footy a fair bit more this week with the 19 touches, and it's good to see Judd McVee continue on his good form throughout the year as well. And Harry Petty kicked the goal, Cat. How about
Our man, Big Harry. Yeah, he's finally on
that?
the scoreboard.
I wouldn't be calling him our man, Cat. Uh,
No, absolutely not. But they're still hanging around the D's, and Rivers I thought responded well. We had a bit of a go on him on the pod last week. He had a really good game. I think the week before against us, or yeah, the week before, and then he sort of dropped off, and now he's looking good in that midfield mix again. And McVee, as you mentioned, Doc, he's been bloody unreal so far, but. Yeah, you got to give credit to the Giants. A lot of this season, they've been a bit patchy through that middle section, and now they've sort of found their feet again. But to arrest momentum within games, I think is going to be really, really valuable come finals time. Not everyone can do it. Like we said before, Carlton has struggled with it, dropping off in their second half. Sydney, obviously, the slow starts are really killing them right now. So if you can bring a game back from the point where it was at in the third quarter. I think, the Giants did well, the D's did well to nearly get back there too. I'm not writing Melbourne off completely yet. They've got a really, really hard run to finish the season, Donny, which we know that might be a killer for some teams. If they can respond, they've got a good chance this week, I think, against the Dogs. But the Dogs are in ripping nick too. Port, the Suns away, Collingwood. I think there's still a little bit of a flutter in them, but I don't know if I'm willing to call them a finals team, Melbourne.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting. I'm fascinated on this, and I agree with you, Doc. I think Melbourne. I'm interested to see how they respond this week because as you and I went back and forth, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, the game here in just a little bit. Um, they could be scary if they finally go, okay, we're gonna play D's footy. And so it'll be fascinating to watch how this goes. And I got to give this Jesse Hogan. My God, seriously, where
He's
was
back.
this? Like
He is back.
there are Melbourne and Frio fans that are literally looking at him this season, going, "Where was this when you played for us?"
well,
So
Melbourne fans would have to think back to bloody 2015 when he started playing like that, and Freo
um,
fans, there's
it just
nothing that
never
can be said
happened.
about it. It just never happened for them.
It just
But
never happened.
it's so good to see Hogan back playing to his best footy. And we said it, at the start of the year when he was on fire, just sort of finding his comfort zone, finding, continuity in his body. He's had a really rough go, especially during his Freo days, injury, personal matters, and everything else that's happened in between. But when he's on song, geez, he sings a bloody good song, Jesse Hogan. So it's good to see him back, and I hope he gets a good crack at the AA this year. I think he deserves it after his year. I mean, a bit like the Giants, it's been a bit of a mulling mid year, but he's really responded the last few weeks.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a hard time. I'm a hard time not chunking Jesse Hogan into my AA at the end of the year because he's been absolutely magnificent. So, speaking of Fremantle, as I popped up a little bit earlier, we jump out to the Derby out west, And OMG, fellas, we had old school footy. There was a melee that, I mean, I saw the suspension and fine list earlier, and it was like it was quite the write up that the AFL had to do after this one because man, these two literally got after each other. I mean, it was nose to nose there for a bit. Fremantle just too good in the end, getting a 35-point win, 110-75. But I mean, a little bit of old school footy is a melee in the middle of this game. It set off tensions quite actively in this game. Kat, your thought about the Western Derby?
Yeah, it's good to see that the spark's still alive over in the West. I mean, given West Coast performances over the past couple of years, I thought it was going to peter out, but good to see there's still some passion. I thought this first half was the best footy that West Coast have played under Jared Schofield so far. I mean, obviously they're probably not going to go too far with the caretaker for the rest of this year, but to see a lot of these guys who, we've spoken a bit about the veterans at West Coast this year, and some of them haven't been performing to the level that you'd maybe expect, but to see Yo, Kelly have really good games. Tom Barras has been in some really, really good form. Waterman, of course, we know, still pushing for his spot in the Coleman race too.
Yes, plugger.
A big plug of Waterman. But even the young guys as well. Harley Reid, I think, responding after he's been a little bit down since his suspension. 29 touches of him, I was really, really happy to see. But Freo was a very professional second half from them. That was a team that knows that they're a good team, and if they want to turn it on, they can. Like I was saying before, if you can wrestle that momentum back in games, Doc, you're going to be a force to be reckoned with. The midfield's been in great touch in recent weeks, and that was no different on Saturday night.
Yeah, I genuinely feel like since they got pumped by the Dogs in at Marvel, it was a swift kick up the bum that they needed. They've responded so well, just sort of in all facets of the game. They're not focusing more on that, chip style footy, the possession retention that they've been playing with the last couple of years, but it's more so just finding the right avenues to get it forward and give the forwards the best opportunity. Good to see Andrew Brayshaw get back onto the disposals list here with 36 touches, 7 tackles was good. Caleb Sarong, my son, as we've brandished him on the pod. I bloody love this kid, Donny. He's a workhorse. He's just a fine young specimen. He's been on the goal sheet as well in recent weeks as well, which is fantastic. 32 touches, 10 clearances, and the Glendinning Allen medal. He bloody loves a derby, Caleb. So get around that. And Jordan Clark's another one I'm pushing for AA, and I've been pushing for it all year. He's one of the best two-way defenders in the comp. He can play the lockdown role, but when the ball is in Freo's hands, he's the one who's commanding it out of the half back line. And another 24 touches for him and 364 meters gained in this one for Jordan is a good return. He's playing some really good footy.
Yeah, definitely. Fremantle's one of those that they've kind of all clicked at the right time. Hayden Young's playing really, really well now that he's went from that halfback line to the midfield. I agree with you. Clark has been fantastic. Sarong and Brayshaw both have been great. And they've kind of figured out Darcy Jackson. And I think if they can keep that going, that's dangerous because again, when you've got Luke Jackson going up against a secondary ruck for any team, it's instantly a win. So I'm fascinated to see, can Fremantle put themselves into that all home final? Can they fight for that second spot and be able to stay in WA all the way up until the grand final as long as they don't lose? So there's still a lot of intrigue in the top four with three, as they state, interstate clubs all fighting potentially in that top four to potentially be the top two spots, to the point where there may not be any preliminary finals in Melbourne this year if things go the correct way. So it'll be fascinating to see how that goes. So we jump to Melbourne, to the MCG, where the Collingwood Magpies get their cheap and easy win over the Richmond Tigers by 26, 93-67. And there's a few fluff in the tails of Pies fans, but I wonder, is this just a temporary sugar hit against a Richmond team that unfortunately this year has just not had any luck at all?
Yeah, it's a hard one to assess. I mean, it's a 110 Sunday game for a reason. Nobody really was interested in watching it unless you barrack for Collingwood or Richmond. We know Miller went to the game as well on Sunday, and he shut himself up real good by halftime. He didn't want to talk about the game or Nick Dacos for that matter. Geez, as soon as it was quarter time to watch this game, no one applied any defensive pressure on him. And, I think he had about 18 touches to quarter time. He finished with 42. They tried a few players to run with him. I think it was Liam Baker in the second, and he wanted nothing to do with the tagging role. So I think they put Seth Campbell on him at the second half, and he did a decent job. But by that point, all the damage was done. So, yeah, hard year for Richmond. And the Pies. It'll be interesting to see how they go this week. As we said, Pendle's 400th against the old arch enemy. It's a game that you have to get up for. There's still an outside chance of making the 8, but given their form the last month, I give them Buckley's.
Definitely. Cat.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate for Richmond. It just sort of goes from sad to sad every week, and we kind of got to watch
Unfortunate Richmond.
Unfortunate Richmond, as we dubbed them last week. You kind of just watch them get pummeled on by whoever's up next. But it was a good chance for the Pies to get some blokes back into form. Dacos, as we mentioned, he's been a little bit patchy in recent weeks with his disposal efficiency, so I think he'll get a bit of confidence from this game. Jack Bytel looked really good running through the midfield. Bobby Hill kicking a few, McStay as well, and Ned Long applying 10 tackles, I thought was really, really good. But there's a lot for Richmond to answer still, unfortunately. I'm happy to see the young guys continually getting a go. Tommy Brown looks like he might have a future as a forward, which is great for him. He's been great off the half back line, but he can be a swingman, even better. Sammy Banks is still in the team. Obviously, Trezise came in this week too. Um, Bolter that didn't do much, unfortunately. Steely Green didn't do much, unfortunately, but at least they're in the team. But the bad news is that Taranto injured again. I mean, they just can't keep these blokes in the midfield fit. It's not going to do them much good if they can't get the senior guys up every week and the young boys have to carry more of a load. So, I mean, there's always good signs individually, I think, for Richmond, but yeah, just another one of those days for them.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it goes. So it's good to see Dan McStay get back and have a good game for Collingwood. Like I said, they step into this Carlton game where it literally is. It's season defining. You lose, you are completely done. You win, you still breathe life into potentially having a chance to defend your premiership. It'll be fun. So we get to the game that Cat, I know the feeling. I just like Cat earlier. I don't want to discuss, but we'll talk about it, especially
What do you mean?
considering
I'd love to discuss this
I
game.
hey, I'm talking about myself, not about you, Doc. We've already kind of established this one. This is I'll give the flower. I'll give the flowers. The doggies too good, too dominant. They looked exactly like they should have at Marvel Stadium earlier this year before a couple of injuries really kind of let the Swans back into it. And just plain and simply, the Swans didn't fire a shot in this game. So Doc, have your fun. How good is it to see your doggies up and about 3 in a row now?
I'm at that point where I'm a little bit wary about what's about to happen next with this club because you just don't know what's going to happen. Last month has been fantastic. I mean, since the Port Adelaide game, which funny story, Donny. I was in Bali for that game. I was on the honeymoon with the wife, and it was at the was playing a little bit of golf within the resort, and had the game on in the radio. Just sort of missing all my shots as per, and then turned it off by quarter time because I just knew what sort of game we were going to dish up. Connor Rosie had about 16 touches in the first quarter that day, and it was just like I couldn't deal with it. But since then, it's just almost as if like a switch has been flicked. Like we've only had maybe two or three good games, so 2 or 3 bad games since we lost to Hawthorn earlier in the year, and that was one of them. But the last 3 weeks has seen a huge shift in momentum. Beating Carlton at home, Geelong at Geelong, which has never been a good hunting ground for us, and now Sydney at the SCG in the manner that we played in. Like, don't want to take anything away from how the Dogs played, but I thought Sydney's decision making was incredibly poor. But I think that comes back to the Dogs' intensity around the source, around the stoppages. I thought they were very, very good locking the ball inside their 50, particularly in that opening term. They had 10 scoring shots for 5-5, and I know it was a little bit blustery at the SCG, but they still got to make their scoring. They've still got to get their scoring worth as well. But a fantastic effort by literally everybody. I don't think I could have faulted anyone's effort, even the plebs like Lockie McNeil and Latham Vandermeer, who I've continuously kicked this year. They were fantastic. Nick Caulfield was good, I thought, playing as that third tall, and you know, as Liam Jones is just. I don't know what else I can say about this guy that I haven't already said. He's just such a pillar in our defensive half. He like I thought Lob and Buku Kamas were fantastic the last
Mhm.
couple of weeks, and I've I have slagged off Buku a fair bit for going beyond his capabilities, but he's just found confidence beyond his expectations in the last few weeks. But defense was fantastic. Jamara is just on an unbelievable tear as well. Another 4 goals, and I can't explain to you the emotions, the feelings when he stiff armed Sam Wicks and then just casually threw it on his left foot for a goal. It was you know some things are just not meant for broadcast, Donny, but that's how it feels at the moment. The dogs are flying.
Well,
So much is happening.
I'll tell you this: when that goal went through, I went, "That's game, that's game." At that time, when that went through, I was like, "Yep, this is over. It is absolutely over." And that was still like third. I think it was in the third quarter, or no, I think it actually was in the fourth quarter because the Swans had kicked a couple in a row, and you could tell the SCG was starting to kind of pick up a little bit. The fans were kind of getting back in the game, and then Jamara kicks that one, and I went, "Yeah, well, we're buggered. We're done. It's over." So, Kat, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's Doc's right. It's probably some of the best footy the Dogs have played basically all season. And geez, you're not letting the wounds heal here, Doc. They're still fresh, mate. It was only Sunday. Come on.
It's fine. I want because I do the podcast. I'm so used to it. I know I have a few people I know who reach out after if the Swans take a loss like that, and I'm like, Donnie, are you okay? And I'm like, I said I've had over 30 years of watching sport over here where I've picked teams that absolutely have just absolutely crapped the bed. So I'm used to it. I don't get angry about it anymore. I kind of give me 10 seconds to just kind of do that, walk into a room by myself and scream once, and then I'm okay. So, but
Jeez, I wish
I,
I had that.
I can't not give the doggies the credit. They were the better team from the first bounce to the final siren, plain and simply. There were only about 5 minutes where I could go, Swans look good. Other than that, they were absolute rubbish in this game. And like I said, I told a few people online, I said, I want to hear the spray that Coach Longmire is going to give them, not only on the review, but just after the game, because that was not what that was. We haven't seen that type of game since last year against Geelong, the first time that they had the rematch after the grand final in 2023, because they had figured out how to not have that happen with all of the losses this year, 2-1-5. Like, I mean, it was ridiculous how close their losses were. And finally we get one that's over 10. So I don't mind it. I think this it's the reality check that the Swans needed, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
No,
agree with
I'm
that.
inclined to agree. Yeah, you need those losses to get you sharpened up for September, and it's going to be the reality check that Chad Warner needs too. I don't think I've seen a worse game from him in a very, very long time.
Hmm.
Oh, and we
I
love Chad
remember
too.
the last time I saw him get below 20 disposals, honestly. So if it's what they need to wake up and finish strong the last month of the season, I think most Swans fans will agree with you, Donny, and they'll be
Hmm.
on board with that.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, I think James Rowbottom is back, and I think that brings a little bit of defensive solidity to the roster again because he's been out
Yep.
with a cheekbone injury. In fact, I'm hearing through a few of my contacts there that he was good to go, but the doctors hadn't given him clearance with his cheekbone issue. And I know that several Swans fans were like sending pictures of like I think it was like Joel Embiid or somebody with like the mask and like, why didn't they do that? And I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the tackling that it's a safety thing. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm happy. It sounds like Rowie should be back. The thing was is Melican's a test. I think they sit him and Aaron Francis comes in, which just gives me PTSD because it's like Sam Reed. I swear.
No.
Francis in the game against Fremantle earlier this year drops 2 marks, and everybody wanted to harpoon him. And I literally, I had an argument with somebody online about it. He's like, he's trash. I go, he drops 1 mark, and you're really to harpoon this guy like a beluga whale. Are you kidding me? Come on, calm down. He's not that bad. It's not like his turnover cost them a goal. I said, did it cost them a goal? And they kind of went, and yeah, it didn't because he made the tackle after that drop. So stop. So Aaron Francis will probably come in from Melican if they're conservative with his hammy injury, which I think exacerbated the issue with the talls of Naughton, Jamara Ugelhagen, and Darcy, which I think is the other reason the doggies capitalized on that. There were about 20 minutes where they weren't. They were making some mistakes in there, and Blakey was able to get the footy and get on a run. Fox went back there, and McCartan again did everything he possibly could back there once Melican went down. But eventually, Jamara, Naughton, and Darcy just had a field day because they only had one true key tall defender to face. Blakey made an attempt, but that's just not his game. He's an intercepting off runoff halfback. So it just wasn't there. So again, doggies just too good. Great game for the doggies. I will echo this as I said to Doc. My worry is that did they use their best game too early, and I worry going into this Melbourne game that will they get too high on themselves and then have a letdown against Melbourne. I hope not. I really want the doggies to play well because I think this is a fun team to watch because there's so many weapons on this team. But it's my one worry that I have about the doggies going into next round. And then we jump over to the Adelaide Oval where the Hawthorn Hawks continue to be absolutely sun fire hot as they beat the Crows on the Adelaide Oval 124-58. And I know some Crows fans are wanting to harpoon this team, but I got to give my plaudits to the Hawks. They looked absolutely magnificent. I don't know what Tommy Mitchell has done to this group, but they look sensational these last 7 to 8 weeks. Kat, your thoughts?
Well, anyone who's been listening to us this year knows that I'm fully on board the Hawks. And I've been on this train
Yeah,
since they
Hawkball.
started. I'm all aboard Hawkball right now, and I mean you can't not love this team. They're probably the most watchable team in the comp at the moment, and I was worried for that first half. I thought the Crows they've been playing good footy for probably about the past month, and obviously after last week I was a little bit scarred with what they did to us, and the forwards were looking good. Still thought coming back into the mix was looking good, but really after half time it was just a complete domination, and it was just the Hawks doing what they do best: fast footy. They're strong at the back. The forwards are always moving. Watson's well and truly into the game now. I think he's clicked and he's not going to slow down from here. Guys like Connor McDonald are just performing week after week, and he's been really, really valuable, I think, to this team. Will Day might be the best player in the league in 2 years. Who knows? John Newcomb could become Lee Matthews, kick 2 goals in this game. It's just everything to love about this Hawthorn team right now, Doc. I can't state any higher how high I am on them, and I genuinely think they're in with a chance of making finals.
Oh, if they keep playing the manner there, and they've got a really cushy run home as well. I think they've still got to play Hawthorn and they've still got to play Richmond and North Melbourne somewhere in the next month.
Yeah.
So there's every chance that they're going to make finals. They'll find a way to sneak into seventh or eighth. As you said, Hockball, we're all about it at A3. They're just an exuberant bunch at the moment. They're playing with freedom. They're playing with hardness around the ball that not many side that makes a lot of these sides crumble. And as much as I'd love to sink the boots into the Crows and Matthew Nix for his coaching, you can't stop a side like this at the moment. They're finding real white hot levels to in how to play the game. We talked about the forwards last week on the podcast, and then they're still continuing to plug along. Cal Shadir or Jason Dunstall, you take your pick. They're both playing some sensational. He's playing some sensational footy. Connor Nash got rewarded with a 5-year contract extension as
Yeah,
well,
massive.
which I think speaks volumes about what he brings in that midfield mix. You think John Newcomb's going to be Lee Matthews' cat, but Connor Nash could be anything. Like it's so amazing watching his progress last 5 years as someone who had no real sort of midfield craft as a run with player. Now he's got all the craft. He's a complete bull around the stoppages, a lot, and really complements the guys like Newcomb and Will Day amazingly. And he's got the height as well. So if he kicks it to a 1-on-1 with another midfielder, 9 times out of 10 he's going to at least halve the contest. So there's a lot of really good areas with Hawthorn at the moment. A lot of Miller asked about the recruits a few weeks ago on the pod. Who's been the best recruit, and you look at guys like Marby Achol, and I think he's had a really good year. I think Jarman Impey played one of his best games on the weekend for Hawthorn. And I really love what Massimo's brought to this club this year as well, playing both halfback and wing.
100% with you. What's funny is that for the longest time, Sydney and Hawthorn had this rivalry because they were two of the best teams in that time period around the Hawks dynasty. But even as a Swans, I gotta say the Hawks are so entertaining. They're so entertaining. You got the guy like Nick Watson, the wizard up front, which I laugh at some of the opposing supporters like wizard, he can't kick straight. So it's absolutely hilarious to me. Seeing CJ Jath come back and play good footy is also great too. I think he's an incredibly great athlete and an incredibly fun player to watch. Ginnivan, I don't know why he cut his hair. I almost didn't recognize him the first couple of times he had the footy. I was like, that's Ginnivan? Holy crap. So it was very interesting. I don't know. I don't want to kick the Crows while they're down. I just think that they've had a season where everything has just not gone right. Everything that could go wrong for them from last year has gone wrong. They can't win at home. They can't get consistency in the group. It seems like there's some decisions that have been made in the box that you kind of go, really? So it's I don't know, but again, Hawks just too good. A nice win, though the Crows haven't been playing well. A nice win on the road to get 4 points. So absolutely fantastic. So, gentlemen, that is all 9 games from a crazy round 20 done. We go to the burning questions, and I'm going to toss one in. I forgot to write this down. So one small question without notice, and that's only because I'm sitting here looking at the fixture for this round, and the one thing that's boiling my blood is I think 2 really good games are on at the same damn time. How frustrating as a footy lover is it when you have 2 really good games, when you have the rivals Collingwood Carlton and Port Adelaide hosting Sydney both on Saturday night at the same exact time? Kat, we'll start with you.
Yeah, well, you'll know from listening to us speak throughout the year, Donny, that we love a chat about time slots and why games go at such weird times when they do. Yeah, this is a strange fixturing decision from the AFL. Even when they released the fixture for the second half of the year, Port were doing quite well, and it was pretty obvious that the Swans were up on top of the ladder. And these two have had some pretty great games in the past few years too. So it's very, very baffling. I can't say I understand it. I'm going to be at the game on Saturday night as well, so I might have the phone cheekily up on the side, catching what's going on over in Adelaide.
That'll be interesting, Doc.
Oh, look, it's. I think we've slagged off enough about AFL House from Laura Kane and Andrew Dillon to the janitor down. Everything that they do seems to be against the grain, and it's against the grain for no reason. So I don't understand. Yeah, it's a bit like playing 2 games, one between, let's say, Hawthorn and North Melbourne on a Saturday night where Hawthorn are going to kick the crap out of them or are going to beat them by 40 points, and then have another game where, let's say, Sydney play West Coast at the SCG, where the Swans will completely belt them as well. Well, it ought to be likely that they do that. So the AFL only care about ratings and ratings only. The AFL also care about money. So whatever sponsorship they get out of it, I don't know. It's a convoluted situation, the fixtures, and God knows I've tried to create fixtures over the years as a kid, trying to pick out who gets the good spots and who gets that, and it's like, oh yeah, it's a convoluted answer, Donny, and I just don't know how the AFL can continually bugger up fixturing and scheduling between the better teams.
Yeah, it'll be really really interesting. I know that I've seen a lot of people that are craving Thursday night footy, and now that we don't have it anymore, and
Yes.
you look at like Friday night, you have two games with an hour and 15-minute difference, so you're going to be about right around halfway through the doggies D's game before you get to the West Coast Eagles Suns game, which I mean, if we're being honest, most people on the East Coast are probably just going to slag off the West Coast game. But it is one of those where it's like you see these games that are on at the same time, and it's like for somebody that wants to double screen, it's fantastic. For somebody that wants to be able to fully focus on one game and then go back and watch it later, it is quite annoying. I know my wife laughs at me because I will take a sticky note on my iPad and I will put it over the scoring time on the bottom right corner, at least of mine. It has the score of the other game, and I don't want to see it because I want to watch the game later. So I will literally put a sticky note over that so I don't see it. So then I can still watch my game and I don't have to worry about getting clues and oh, it's 35-34 Carlton at this point. Like I don't want to know. So it is rather annoying that they have these games on at the same time. Like I said, I'm hoping Thursday night footy is a permanent fixture next year because I think it was doing really well personally. At least that's what it seemed like, at least from what I hear from the podcast that I listen to and all that. So, but that's just frustrating that two really good games are both going to be on at the same time. So there's going to be a few people channel flipping during both of those games on Saturday night down in Australia. And for me, it's a 4:30 a.m. wake up for that one. So I won't be channel switching, but I will definitely have my anti spoiler sticky note on the bottom corner because I'll want to watch that Carlton Collingwood game a little bit later. So, but I know I'm gonna have to not pay attention to like the halftime things because they're gonna talk about it, which is gonna be annoying as all get out. So sorry. I had to ask that because I'm literally looking at the fixture going, really? So all right. We'll jump to the first of my burning questions. We have 4 rounds left in the home and away. And as I kind of stated at the start of the year, this has been a bonkers season. Will this comp settle, or are we preparing for insanity in these last 4 rounds? Doc, we'll start with you.
I think, as I said, start of the episode, I don't think we're only like a smidgen closer of who's going to play in the top eight. It could really fall any which way. One of these teams could actually do a Bradbury and find themselves in the eighth spot on the ladder, and
Mhm.
you know it just sort of adds to the whole theatrics of what's been an unreal season, really, like a season of complete evenness between the top 12 to 13 teams. You know, even the Suns. Nobody really rates them at the moment, but there's still 8 points behind eighth, and anything can happen in the next month. So, yeah, geez, I don't think we're any closer to finding out who's going to compete in September.
Cat.
Yeah, I look at the fixtures that are left, and there's way too many games that can still decide so much on the ladder. I mean, even just this Friday night, the Dogs in Melbourne is huge for both teams. The Giants and Hawks, that could decide so much that could decide the Giants nearly locking themselves or starting to push towards top four and battling for a spot in the eight again. And there's more of those every single week for the next 4 weeks. So. I still think I'm inclined to say the Swans, Brisbane, and Freo will make it for sure. I think Carlton is in that group too. I think even though they faltered a little bit, they're still good enough to make it. But anyway, down fifth to 13th, still take your pick. Collingwood
Mhm.
could settle. I'm not saying we're in with a chance at all. Everyone else in there, though, absolutely. So no, there is still way more craziness to come. Absolutely.
Yeah, the insanity is going to be fun. I have a feeling round 24 hasn't been put out yet, but I think Sunday is going to be a little bit more jam packed than normal because if they want that great visual of having the live ladder while each score is scored on Sunday, I have a feeling there might be several games on Sunday that are going to be definitely worth watching. And we go to my next question. We'll kind of stay on that theme with so many teams still in contention going into this last round, whether they're in finals and trying to lock up top four or just outside and so close to making it. What's one team that you are going to be watching these final four rounds to see where they end up? So, Kat, we'll start with you.
I mean, do you even need to ask? It's the Hawks for me right now. It's absolutely Hawthorn. I'm like I said before, I'm so on board with the football that this team is playing right now, and they don't have it easy. Like we said, those two games against North and Richmond should be wins. You'd almost lock that in. Even though North are playing better than they have been for the first half of the year, I still think down in Tassie, the Hawks play that ground very well. But it's two absolutely huge games. The Giants in Canberra, they beat the Giants obviously earlier in the year. And that Carlton game is just, they couldn't be coming up against Carlton at a better time. And Collingwood riding high, Pendle's 400th. If they upset Carlton again, that's another very, very shaky loss for the Blues if they don't get up on Saturday night. So I'm watching Hawthorn with a very, very close lens. If they make finals, I think they're a genuine chance of getting over anyone.
Mm-hmm. Doc?
Yeah, well, be a handful of teams I really want to watch in this next month. Hawthorn's certainly at top of the list. My team certainly up there as well. We've got a massive game Friday night against Melbourne, but then after that, I know we've got North coming up. We've got GWS the last round of the season, which games between them's always been a great watch, even if they've got to play in the crappy little town of Ballarat. Um, I'll make a mention to get there and have a look at it. And, I think Brisbane as well, whether or not they can close the gap. We know Sydney are a little bit wobbly now, Donny. They've lost four of the last
Mhm.
five. If they can keep winning, they can notch up top spot, Brisbane, if the Swans drop another couple. Um, and I think Freo as well, just an absolute dark horse. They're another team that's found form at the right time of the season. There's just a lot of intrigue around almost every team from literally first to 12th. And but like for mine, those are probably the four teams to keep an eye out. Porter an intriguing one. Every time they bloody bottom out or they lose by a significant margin, it's always Ken out or it's time for someone new, which Ken's been at the helm for about a decade. It's just looking almost, and we're certainly guilty of trying to peddle that narrative as well at A3. We think when Porter cooked, it's see you Ken, but when they're finding ways to win, it's all right. Guess you're staying for another few weeks.
Yeah, very, very interesting. I'm 100% with you. I I can't pick one team because there's just too many. I'm fascinated by Collingwood. Can they get a run and find a way into the finals? I'm fascinated with Hawthorn because they're finally in a spot where they can pounce into the top eight and become that scary team outside of the top four that I think could, if they find their right form, could go because they don't care where they play. If they have to go on the road, they'll go on the road. If they're playing at home, they're playing in Victoria, they're playing in Victoria. The Hawthorne's going to be so much fun to watch. I'm fascinated by your Mobcat with Essendon. Can they fix this hoodoo that's been on them with finals, and if they get in, can they win a final, or will they continue to stub their
Probably
toe
not.
when the
Yeah,
time is
short answer
right?
is no.
Your doggies not, can they keep this momentum up? Because this week, like I said, I my biggest worry is that they have that great scalp against Sydney, and then they get too high on themselves going in against a Melbourne team that still is there. There's Gold Coast, though I don't think they'll make finals. Can Dema get this team going on the right track going into finals? And then it's Brisbane, can they keep their form up? Carlton and Sydney, can they pull their heads out of a body cavity that it shouldn't be in at this time of the season Fremantle, can they get a top two? Can they get a top two spot? Port Adelaide, like I said, can they keep Ken employed? Like there's just so many things. GWS is the same thing. Can they find what they found last year? So it's like I, I, I can't really pick one team because each there's a storyline with all of the teams in the top 12 to 13 that I cannot wait for these final four rounds. And the crazy part is I'll say this for me being over here in the States, the AFL has been very kind to me. They've given me some really good games at these decent afternoon time slots, which are like early evening for me. Like this week, Hawthorne, GWS, and Canberra. That's that. I'm not missing that one. I'm going to watch that game. That's going to be a good one, followed by Essendon hosting Fremantle, which I think is going to be another fantastic one on Sunday early morning for me, Sunday afternoon, early evening for you fellas over there. So it's like, I mean, and then I think I was looking at round 22 is the same thing, 10:45 time slot for me, the early afternoon, Brisbane Lions, GWS at the GABA. And then what was it? The other one is Carlton v. Hawthorne is also the first afternoon time slot in round 22. Like, thank you, AFL. You're giving me some good games at a decent time for me over here in the States. So it's fantastic. Cannot wait for it. So my final two questions of the burning questions, like I tell most people in the podcast, is that I like to let you talk about your team. So Doc, we'll start with you as the doggies man that you are and the puffed up chest that you are over the last three rounds. Are you ready to trust your dogs right now?
Oh,
Or are you still holding back just the littlest bit because four rounds still enough time for a way for them to stuff it up?
well, if last year and the year before was any indication, Donny, you cannot trust this team. And, you know, it's fantastic. We've beaten three of the top four sides in the comp: Geelong, Carlton, Sydney. That's all good. And, we're finding really good form at the right time of the year. But we've always had this penchant of backing it up with, subpar performances against sides that we really should be putting away. And even that, like, I can't forget what happened last year when we played West Coast, just completely being there. And I turned up to the pod the next day and just gave it a nuclear bake. This is how it gets with this club sometimes. You celebrate the highs, but you also got to bloody rock the lows wherever it need be. I mean, you watch us probably lose to Adelaide in a couple of weeks' time as well. They're playing like absolute dogs balls, and they're just they're no good. But the you watch will make them play like bloody 1997 Adelaide Crows. That was a bloody good time. Um, but yeah, to answer your question, no, I'm not ready to trust this team. They could get to the prelim, and I still wouldn't trust them to completely wet the bed. But I'll stick with them. I'll enjoy the ride for as long as it takes. They'll probably have to kill me before I can fully trust them.
The life of a footy supporter for sure. So, and we'll go to you. We'll go to you, Kat. I'm not trying to kick you while you're down here, but I gotta ask: are there any fears of history repeating itself for the Bombers again this year?
Well, we're already right in the middle of the fears, aren't we? It's a carbon copy of 2023, and I'm starting to think if I've done something bad in a past life to start deserving all what Essendon's been putting me through. Look, if it's history repeating in the sense of going into finals and being bundled out in the first week, no, there's no fears of that because we're not going to be making the top eight. Are there fears of an exact carbon copy of last year? Absolutely. I think it's gonna be difficult to see us winning more than one of the last four games at the moment. I mean, the Suns have shown that they're not at the level of beating teams on the road, especially teams that are down and out or even the likes of North Melbourne as we've seen. They've got a couple of ones that they should be winning across the end of the year, but um, yeah, I think it's the fears are there because it's real. It's going to be six of the last seven games lost, or something ridiculous, or seven of the last eight, however many it gets to, which is what I think I'm expecting and what most on supporters are fully expecting right now. And There's going to be questions asked of what Brad Scott's doing with the team come the end of the year, whether there's enough young guys being played. I saw a graphic the other day that was in the past 2 years, we've only made three debuts, which is the lowest of anyone in the league, especially considering how low we finished last year. Pretty disappointing, but I don't know. Things have to change, and otherwise, those fears are going to remain for a very long time still.
Yeah, it's very, very it's kind of scary to look at how similar last year, how similar it's going like last year. So I'm like I said, I'm crossing my fingers for you and the Bombers faithful, because just want the website to be able to be deactivated of no wins in the final. So I'm crossing my fingers and touching wood for you there for you, Cat, for sure. So alrighty, that is going to do it for my burning questions. We jump to the part where I take over the podcast just the littlest bit, and I'm interested with a couple of footy nuffies what they think of my team of the week this week. Because I know Doc has, when he's been on previously, has had some fun giving me a little stuff of who I have and have not on this particular team. So I'm looking forward to this. So we start with the defenders. Since I coach a team up here, we'll start with the fullbacks. This may be a tiny bit of a stretch on this, so stay with me, okay? So we'll start off St. Kilda's Cal Wilkie, Hawthorne's Jarman Impey, and Hawthorne's James Sicily are my fullback line. At the halfback line, we see Gold Coast Sam Flanders, St. Kilda's Nazaya Wanganeen Millera, and North Melbourne's Harry Sheasel. Through the middle, on the wings, we have Ollie Dempsey of the Geelong Cats and Brisbane's Hugh McCluggage. Through the middle, we have Jack Steele of the St. Kilda Saints, Essendon's Dylan Shield, and Hawthorne's Jai Newcomb, with the ruck as Rowan Marshall. On the forward line, we see the Western Bulldogs' Jamara Ugle-Hagan, GWS's Toby Green, and St. Kilda's Cooper Sharman. In the full forward line, we have Charlie Curnow of the Carlton Blues, GWS's Jesse Hogan, and St. Kilda's Alex Caminiti. On the bench, my defender is Sydney's Matt Roberts. The ruck is Melbourne's Max Gone. My midfielder is Jaeger O'Meara of the Fremantle Dockers, and my forward is Mitch Georgiades of the Port Adelaide Power. Doc, your thoughts on this one? I know a little St. Kilda heavy, but they put up some pretty good numbers against the Cats Bombers, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think I could find any faults with the St Kilda players you put in. I think they all played really, really well. Love that you put Matty Roberts in there as well. I thought he was by far your best player on the weekend as well. You didn't mention Caleb Sarong in that team, did you?
Yeah, the issue I run into is that
Oh,
with the
Donny.
midfielders, all the midfielders that I had through the center section all kicked at least two goals, and Caleb only had one.
Oh, Donny.
Sorry. As you know my metric is that
I
goals and
know.
score involvement. I know. Come on.
Yeah, no. Won the best on ground medal in the Derby.
This
Completely
is
pulled
true,
their
but it was
pants.
also
No room
playing it
for
was also playing West Coast.
that's
I,
true. No
I
room for Zorko down back as well.
Yeah,
yeah,
Zorko had a fantastic one, but the issue I ran into is that almost all of the defenders that I got in there all at least kicked a goal. Sicily, Impey, Sheasel, Nasiah Wanganeen Miller, and Sam Flanders all kicked goals. Cal Wilkie was the only one that didn't. And it was like I needed a fullback. I didn't want Zorko because then I have we could put Sicily at fullback, but
have
I'm
a
not
dwarf at
sure.
fullback.
Exactly. I'm not sure if I could do that. So that's why I got Cam to at least somewhat be structurally sound with Cal Wilkie back there. So that's the only reason why Zorks didn't get in. Like if if like say Impey didn't kick a goal or Sicily didn't kick a goal, then probably I would have had Wilkie and Zorko there. But it's just kind of the way it turned out. So, but nope,
Yeah.
completely understand your guys's feedback. Absolutely love it. We go to the power rankings. There really is no change because all of the teams in the power rankings won. At 5, the Fremantle Dockers. At 4, the Western Bulldogs. At 3, the Hawthorn Hawks. At 2, the GWS Giants. And at 1, the Brisbane Lions. So again, no change on that. All 5 teams won. Can't really downgrade anybody on that. So we get to my favorite part of the podcast. We are at Wednesday. We're so close to the footy. Let's jump into tipping. I know this is always fun, so we'll start off with the fun one. Doc, your favorite team, the Western Bulldogs, take on the Melbourne Demons at Marvel Stadium. It'll be fun. So, Doc, head versus heart. Can your doggies get it done? Are you worried a slip up and the D's get the chocolates?
I'm always worried when we play Melbourne. I bloody hate it when we play them. Especially when it's round one at the MCG. They always seem to find a way to beat us by 50 points.
At least it's at
Um,
Marvel.
yeah, this is at Marvel this time, which I'm pretty happy with. Should win this one. Not I'm about 60% confident. I love that we've rolled out the Footscray banner this week.
Mhm.
Retro round here in the AFL. The only change we've made to our Guernsey, we've seen a lot of other clubs make wholesale changes to their retro Guernsey. We've only added red collars. So, um, so that's look, pretty light work for the manufacturing company. Um, yeah, gonna go to the dogs. Dogs by 3 goals, I think.
Okay, okay, cat.
More generous than I'm thinking, Doc. I think this is going to be a very, very tight one. No, very good memories of that game in 2022 at Marvel, and Jamara snapped that absolutely freakish goal for his
Oh,
fifth off the
I was
boundary.
was there too, Cat. It went absolutely nuts.
I was shattered I wasn't there. I was working at the pub that night, but I did get to see it on the TV at the very least. But geez, that was insane. I think given the form he's in, we could see something similar from him this week. We did say, like I said before, the D's backline's in better nick than it has been, but I think the Dogs' form is too hard to ignore. I'm going to tip them by 7 points.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one. I got the doggies. I got the doggies in this one. I think their form is good. Again, my one worry is that if the D's can get a 2 or 3 goal lead early, then do the doggies panic and start trying to do too much and fall into the trap of kicking it to Lever in May all day. So it'll be fascinating on that one for sure. So I think the doggies should win that one, but I'm tiny bit worried on that particular tip. Jump out to Optus Stadium and one that's got me riveted to the floor. Not really. As the West Coast Eagles take on the Gold Coast Suns. Can the Suns finally get a win on the road, Cat?
Surely they can't lose this one, can they?
They
I
can,
mean,
but
Yeah, they
absolutely
can.
can, which is the scary part. I might tip West Coast. Like I said, it's the best footy they played under Schofield last week. I just
Only
think the
lasted a half.
Suns. Oh no, they only lasted a half. That's all they probably need against the Suns away from home.
but that was
I just
against
don't
Fremantle
think.
too, a much better team than Gold Coast. All due respect.
Very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. I just don't think they've got it mentally away from home at the moment. I'm going to tip West Coast for now. It might change, but yeah, until the Suns show me different, I'm going to tip against them away from home.
All right,
Why is
Doc.
it? Why is this game on a Friday night at 8:30 too? No,
It's
no
very
less.
weird.
Um, it's another one of the fixturing quirks that makes absolutely no sense, Donny.
Yeah,
Um,
both games on at Friday night, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna watch them both.
I'll save you the trouble. Watch one.
I will, and
And not
it'll
and
be the
not
doggies Melbourne one. It'll be the one I watch. So
and it's not this game. Um, go the Suns. I'm gonna go the Suns. This has got to be the game, Cat. This has got to be the
It
game.
has to. It
see,
has to.
I'm gonna go with you, Cat. I like the Eagles in this one. Again, I don't trust this Gold Coast team on the road. I've still seen some good signs. I West Coast tends to play better at home. They have the home crowd behind them. I'm hoping maybe we get a lift from Harley Reid a little bit. It'll be fascinating to see. Does Dimma employ Tuke Miller as a tag here? It'll be interesting to see. Wait, is Tuke back? I forgot.
I don't think he's back for another couple of
Oh
weeks,
yeah, he's
too.
not back. Yeah, so okay, never mind. Strike that. Rewind. But no, it'll be interesting. No, I'm gonna tip West Coast. I don't trust. I still don't trust Gold Coast yet. I'm still not there yet. And if they win this one, maybe I'll change my mind a little bit. But I'm gonna go with West Coast on this one. A fascinating one at Marvel Stadium. Be interesting to see what the figures are for this attendance as North Melbourne take on Richmond as the bottom of the table clash will be having me riveted to my seat watching this one. I have North winning this one. North just too good. They're starting to play some much better footy, and they finally get an opponent that talent-wise they are actually better than. Cat,
Could be.
go ahead.
Yeah, it's oh God, the battle for Jagger Smith here, or whoever's in number one contention right now. Richmond will lock that number one pick down. North will win. They've been playing a lot better.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I'll tell you what. I don't know how many North fans will turn up to this game, but I can rest assure you, only three Richmond supporters will turn up to this game, and I bet you Alex Miller might be one of them. Poor, poor bastard. I'm gonna go North Melbourne. Yeah, just Richmond. Well, look, they weren't bad against Collingwood after quarter time, but North Melbourne have been far better in terms of competing around the ball, and I think Harry Sheezel another game where he has 40 touches and just completely goes mental.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one. A fun one done in GMHBA Stadium as the Crows fly over down south to Southern Victoria to take on the Cats in this one. Doc, who do you like in this one?
Not the team from South Australia. I'm going Geelong, and Geelong by a fair margin too, by a lot.
Cat?
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that. I think the Crows have used up all their good at football points for the rest of the year. They are cooked.
I like the Cats in this one. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to see how Jeremy Cameron goes. Can he get himself back into kicking goals form? It'd be fascinating to see on that one. So I like the Cats in this one, just a little too much depth for the Crows in this one, especially at that fun ground down in GMHBA Stadium. The first of the two Friday night main event games as we see the old rivals lock horns again as Collingwood take on Carlton in this one. Kat, we'll start with you. Who wins between the old rivals?
Oh, geez, it's a hard one to tip this week. I mean, the Pendles 400s just makes it feel like they can't possibly lose. I mean, we've only had five of these games in the league, full stop. So it's one of the more momentous occasions you can get in a home and away season. Just for that, I'm honestly leaning towards Collingwood. I think if there's a game that they're gonna get up for, I don't know that they win many more from here, but I think they do win this one. So I'm gonna tip the Pies.
All right, Doc.
Surely Craig McCaffrey, Cat, and all his barista wisdom is gonna brew up a game plan that's going to, or brew up a strategy that's going to see Collingwood home in what should be their grand final this year.
He needs
It,
to. He absolutely
it
needs to.
absolutely needs to. I'm going to go the Pies as well, but gee, I tell you what, Pendles, this is going to be the game. This is the game. This is the legacy game. We've seen him win Norm Smith. We've seen him win a premiership. We've seen him literally do everything except win a Brownlow. But gee whiz, this will be the game where he drops a lazy 30 and just kills Carlton.
It'll be interesting. I'm gonna go the Blues on this one. I think they start on I think they continue this super hot start where they start games off absolutely in fuego. I think they take the Pies crowd out of this. And I honestly, this is one of those games where it's like I look at it and I go, I think the Pies finally run out of magic. Completely and absolutely run out of magic. They try to make that comeback, and Carlton just absolutely gives them the smacketh down. I worry for Collingwood in this one because you're gonna get a Blues team that has been literally smacked from pillar to post for falling apart in their last game against Port Adelaide. I worry for Collingwood in this one because they're going to get an angry Blues team. Harry Mackay should be back. So, which then gives me absolute fear because Darcy Moore can't guard one, let alone two. I like Bruzzy Maynard, but I don't think he can handle either of the other two. I think this is a danger game for Collingwood. This could get out of hand if the Blues are ruthless. Now, they haven't been, but if the Blues get ruthless, this could be a long game for that Pies defense for sure. So I'm going to tip the Blues in this one. We jump over the Adelaide Oval and the house of horrors that is the Adelaide Oval when Sydney play Port Adelaide. So I will do my fun and I will tip against my Swans, hoping that I do the reverse jinx and I miss the tip, but get my team right. So I'm going to tip Port Adelaide on this one, but also because Port Adelaide's playing pretty good footy. Sydney is absolutely not. Unless Sydney finds a way to turn everything around, this could be another House of Horrors game for them. So I'm going to tip the Power in this one. We'll jump to you, Doc. Who do you like?
I love that you've adopted my strategy of tipping against your team because you don't lose.
Exactly.
That's the
That's what I've told a few people that I said I've said if I get it wrong, I get my team wins. If I get it right, I get the tip right. So I get a win either way.
Well, the only thing about that though is that it's cost me the perfect week on more than one occasion. So, just tread carefully when you do that, Donny. Also,
Usually works. It actually has worked pretty well for me this year. In fact, most of the ones that I've missed when it comes to this one's been the ones where I've tipped it. Like this last week when I tipped again, when I tipped for them, thinking now they're playing at home against the Doggies. The Doggies always have this letdown game. This is probably their letdown game, and yeah, totally completely whiffed on that one. So
yeah, House of Horrors because of all the Port Adelaide supporters looking like something that crawled out of Centrelink. Um, I'm gonna go. I will go the power. Very, very informed. They are informed. They're winning games of football. And Sydney, as I said, very very wobbly and away from home as well. Would have to be a monumental win to get their season back on track. Cat.
mhm.
Hmm. Yeah, weird things happen in games between these two at the moment, so I don't really know who's going to win. All I know is that it's going to be something crazy in the last 2 minutes of the game. I want to say Port for now. I think, like we said, Ken stays on the Port Adelaide payroll for one more weekend at the very least.
Damn.
It's Hinkley watch. Hinkley watch. All right, we'll jump up to what I think could be a game of the round, sneaky game of the round choice here in Manuka Oval in Canberra as the Giants host the Infuego Hawthorn Hawks. Cat, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, some great games between these two in recent years as well. The game in Tassie was great earlier this year, and last year in Gather Round, obviously the Harry Himmelberg heroics at the end of the game, with that massive grab. I can't tip against Hawthorn at the moment. The only game I probably tipped against in the past 10 weeks was the Geelong game, which I think no one's going down to GMHB expecting to win, but. Oh, I can't go past them. I simply cannot. I'm gonna tip them again.
All right, Cat, Doc. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's all right. I'm only the one that's got hair. Uh, I'm I don't really want to tip against Hawthorn, but it's a GWS home game. They've been quite good at Canberra this year. GWS they've usually been very subpar or average, but I'm gonna go gonna go the Giants. I'm sorry, Hawkball. I'm gonna have to put you on the shelf for a week. Um, I think the Giants are just finding good form at the right time as well. Cat. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
them.
I'm gonna tip the Hawks in this one. I like their mojo. They just nothing phases them. They've played big games against Collingwood. Big games against Richmond Tigers where you tons of people against them. They just find a way to get it done. I like the Hawks in this one. Manuka Oval isn't exactly the most cauldron type of dangerous environment, but I agree with you, Doc. They've played really well up in Canberra this year. This is going to be an absolute classic. This could be game of the round for sure, a sneaky one. I like the Hawks in this one to get a big win on the road. So we jump to the MCG and potentially the House of Horrors for Cat here as Essendon and his
Oh.
Bombers host Fremantle. So I'll ask you the same question I asked Doc: head versus heart. Can your Dons get it done, or are the Dockers just too good?
The head and the heart both say the same thing, and they're saying that Freo get the win on Sunday. I mean, the G has been the house of horrors for us this year. I think we've only won the two games there. One was against Collingwood, which fair enough was a very good win, and the other was against the lowly Richmond side. We beat Hawthorn at the start of the year as well, but I hardly count that. The Hawks are a very, very different team than they were in round one. This is not a win, unfortunately. Freo are in flying form right now, and they will get it done over us.
All right, Doc.
Yeah, no. Do something more useful with your life at 3:20 p.m. on a Sunday afternoon, or what time would it be over there, Donny?
12:20 a.m.
Oh, sleep through it. You're not going to miss much. It's going to be
I
a
will I will probably slowly drift to sleep on this one because like I said, I'll watch the GWS Hawthorne game. The issue that I run into is I think that game will be on a different channel because of the GWS Hawthorne game. So it's like I may get spoilers for like the first 10 minutes of that game before the Hawks Giants game ends. But yeah, I Dockers for me on this one. I worry Essendon is they're starting to kind of fall apart. Unfortunately, the wings are falling off the plane here, unfortunately. So
yeah.
Dockers
Go
just too
Freo.
good. I know that they've got the cross country travel, so it'll be interesting to see. Could this game be a little bit closer? than if it were potentially over in Western Australia. So it'd be a fun one. And I think a sneaky game here, a sneaky game here. St. Kilda at Marvel Stadium hosting the Brisbane Lions. Will we see offensive St. Kilda, or will we see defensive Dower hold Brisbane down as much as possible, St. Kilda? Doc, we'll start with you. Lions, can they keep their run form, or can St. Kilda pull a massive upset on Sunday evening?
I think a better question, Kat, would be: will Ross wheel out the birthday cake and the party hats again after a good performance? They played. It was a good game last time they met at the Gab. Everyone was worried it was going to be a snooze game, something that puts you to sleep by halftime, and it was, 200 points scored in that game. Yeah, I'm going to go Brisbane. I'm weary about the Saints. They found a little bit of form in recent weeks, but I think the Lions are going to be too strong.
Mm-hmm. Cat?
Yeah, it is a weird one. I think you're right that it might be a quietly good game. It's strange to note that they only played Brisbane back in round 14 as well. Just another one of those fun quirks of the fixture that we love so much. But yeah, they've been in good form the past month, the Saints. I don't think it'll be enough to get over Brisbane. As much as they haven't loved playing here at Marvel this year, I think they'll be able to get it done and keep on rolling, just nipping on Sydney's heels.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I got Brisbane in this one, but I don't know. St. Kilda is, I think, is going to be sneaky in this one. This is going to be one I may definitely keep an eye on for sure, because I think that one could be fascinating. So, gentlemen, that is it. All 9 games have been tipped. We've went through everything. This has been fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed talking with it. Kat, it's been great to have you on the podcast for the first time. But I think I'll let you guys have this opportunity. For those that have not listened to the A3 podcast, tell us just a little bit about it, and then how to get a hold of it, and how things are going on the A3 podcast.
Absolutely. Well, as you'll know, as Donnie said at the start, the three of us, all named Alex, which is just a strange coincidence, all talking footy every single week. We've got our regular segments, what's hot, what's not, going through all the big headlines throughout the week and what we love throughout the rounds. Talk about the best performances every single week. General footy chat that you've probably come to know and love every single week. So you can find us, A3 Footy Podcast, on Spotify, on basically anything that you get your podcasts on. And our socials, we've got A3 Footy Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, at A3 Footy on Twitter. And you can reach us on our email as well, a3footy@gmail.com.
All right. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite ones that I listen to, even sometimes when I know you're going to actually absolutely have some fun trashing teams. It's so much fun to listen to sometimes. I got to give it to you. You guys are not afraid to absolutely put the boot to a team that is playing like absolute rubbish. So absolutely love it, gentlemen. So that is going to do it for the podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening. If you like what you are hearing, please like and subscribe here on YouTube or on any of your opportunities to listen to a podcast out there, because I swear we're on every single one. So that'll do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we'll be back with more footy coverage very, very soon.